World Hour, unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
All right, TikTok is under fire again, this time for what could be a direct breach of the UK's Online Safety Act. Now, an investigation has revealed that children as young as 13, the app's minimum sign-up age, are being fed suggestions that lead them straight to pornography. Campaigners say this shows TikTok's safety filters and either broken or deliberately weak, raising fears about how easy minors are being exposed to harmful content. To talk to us about this worrying phenomenon, we're now joined on the line by Mark Stephens, CBE lawyer and expert on media regulations. Mark, a very good evening to you and welcome to Channel Africa. Mark, are you with us?
Yeah, yes, I am. I can hear you.
Yeah, indeed, Mark. The Online Safety Act was designed to really place a legal duty of care on platforms in practice. How far does that duty extend, and does TikTok's failure here go beyond negligence into systemic non-compliance?
I think you're right. I think it is systemic non-compliance. Essentially, what the researchers did was they took a phone, cleaned it, put it back to factory settings as if you had just bought it new off the shelf. You put in your date of birth and it offers you an age-appropriate restricted mode. And that's intended to provide parents, guardians, the ability to limit certain exposure of inappropriate content. So TikTok itself says you shouldn't see mature or complex themes and particularly shouldn't see sexually explicit material. And of course, on a clean phone, it offers you the opportunity to search. So you tap in that and it offers you the first 10 topics that you might like to look at. And the first ones were pretty usual. Often it came up TikTok Shop UK or TikTok Shop. But then it immediately goes into search terms like adults on TikTok, very rude babes, and more explicit descriptions at that point. And of course, what this means is that TikTok's idea of a restricted mode, which is intended to comply with our law here in the UK, is a bit like putting a fake padlock on the front door with the key under the mat so that anyone can come along and see the material that they're supposed to be protected from.
Yeah, indeed, Mark. And you and I can agree that internet has evolved over time. And now we're hearing that TikTok's defense often rests on the complexity of its algorithm. Legally speaking, then, Mark, can platforms hide behind the black box of AI recommendation system? Or are they still fully accountable for harmful outcomes?
No, they are accountable for harmful outcomes, particularly where they haven't complied with the appropriate restrictions for under 18-year-old individuals. And one of the problems here is that this isn't just some minor technical glitch, as TikTok would try and have you believe. It's a kind of moral failure where the platform is nudging children towards content, and it's just irresponsible. They shouldn't be able to see it. And I think it's really a direct challenge to Parliament's will. And they know that if children of 13, 14 see this kind of material, they'll be on the platform for longer, they'll earn more money. And so, of course, they try to get them addicted to this kind of material at a very early age.
Yeah, Mark, what stronger legal recommendations here or remedies could we see, forced, design changes? I'm asking this because of the issues around the algorithm audits or even criminal liability for executives.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on the one hand, the company has legal obligations to ensure that its algorithms don't deliver material which is harmful or illegal in some way. And they've obviously been asleep on the job or failed comprehensively to achieve that. But similarly, it's not a great shout for the regulators here. We have a regulator called Ofcom who looks after TV, radio, and streaming and internet platforms. And they appear to be asleep on the job as well. I mean, the idea that you're reviewing strategies after the fact rather, is a bit like installing seatbelts after the crash. It's not appropriate to have a post-mortem. We're supposed to be having prevention here. That's what this tool was intended to do. It's not doing it. And I think, it speaks to both the regulator and, more importantly, to the platforms' failure to test this in the way that members of the public, frankly, have.
Yeah, and which brings me to the next question, members of the public. And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, Mark, but beyond just the Online Safety Act and looking at the children's rights, could this exposure to pornography be considered a violation under, a broader human rights or children's protection frameworks?
Yes, it could. I mean, so some of the material is sort of lewd, but not illegal. But if you see material which involves children, for example, or extreme acts, then that can be a criminal offence. We have an organisation here called the Internet Watch Foundation, which has been working for decades now to try and eradicate the most egregious material. But the primary responsibility lies with the companies themselves, lies with the regulators and people who enforce the law. The regulators should be testing compliance by the platforms, but they don't seem to be doing that either. It shouldn't really fall to Global Witness, a non-governmental organisation supported by grants and philanthropy, to draw attention to these egregious breaches of the rules.
Yeah, I know that it can be difficult to really navigate the regulating space simply because it's technology and we're quite new at this, all of us. But does this case then, Mark, highlight the challenge of regulatory global platforms, or should I say regulating these global platforms as a national level? And would you say that we're making progress in that front? Is there commitment from entities, or should I say government and private sector, to really make sure that there is some sort of a mechanism to really regulate these platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are those kind of restrictions, and we see it. So Meta, Facebook's company, had a platform which it couldn't operate in a child-friendly manner, and they disposed of it. They chose, I suppose, legality and lawfulness over profit. It appears that TikTok has been less sensitive to their legal and regulatory obligations than they are to their financial ones. And I think until we start hitting them with large fines, which will drive their behaviors, or perhaps making directors personally liable for these kind of defalcations, then we've got to go some way before I think they'll start to comply with the letter as well as the spirit of the law.
Yeah, finally, Mark, just before I let you go, do you see this moment as a potential test case, one that could really set a precedent for holding such companies legally liable for, the real world harm and their recommendations? In your view, would you say that this is one case study that is a step in the right direction for holding them accountable?
It's certainly a step in the right direction to holding them accountable. And we have seen progress over time as people become more sophisticated and understand it. The eyes of the public are there to report. But where we seem to be lacking is in the regulatory and enforcement side. both law enforcement and the administrative regulators don't seem to be as advanced in this game as the platforms, as the technologists themselves. So it becomes really important. And I think the learning point here is that the regulators bare their teeth. They've got to get in front of these problems. They've got to do tests to see whether the platforms, all platforms, are complying with their legal and regulatory obligations. The companies have got huge serried ranks of lawyers that they pay vast sums of money to comply with the law all over the world. They are technology lawyers, they understand this, and they could comply if but they wanted to.
Mark, thank you
And
so
maybe we need to force them to.
Yeah, indeed. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it.